There is a small brown bird that probably visits your window more often than you realize. You barely notice it, but it has been watching your movements, learning your habits, and quietly mapping your routine. Welcome to the Pigeon Mind. Subscribe for calm, evidence-led bird documentaries. Stay until the end because that ordinary house sparrow may know far more about you and your home than you imagine. There is a small brown bird that probably visits your window more often than you realize. It is the house sparrow, one of the most familiar birds in the entire world. You see it so often that you have probably stopped truly noticing it at all. It flits to your ledge, chirps for a while, and then darts quickly away. But that tiny bird may know far more about you than you would ever guess. It has watched your window, learned your habits, and quietly figured out your routine. For such a small head, the house sparrow is remarkably clever and adaptable. It is bold, curious, and endlessly watchful of the busy human world around it. And it has tied its entire fate to ours for many thousands of years. So while you barely notice it, the sparrow has been paying very close attention. So what exactly has that little brown bird learned about you and your home? The answer reveals a surprisingly sharp mind hiding inside a tiny familiar body. To understand the sparrow, you first have to understand its ancient bond with us. The house sparrow did not simply wander into our towns and cities purely by random chance. It chose to live in human settlements deliberately, tying its very survival directly to our own. This quiet partnership began thousands of years ago, back when humans first started farming and storing grain. Wherever there were people and piles of stored grain, there was always plenty of reliable food. So the sparrows simply followed us, all the way from ancient villages into our modern sprawling cities. They learned to nest in our walls, our eaves, and our quiet roof spaces. They learned to eat our crumbs, our spilled grain, and our discarded scraps. Very few wild animals have ever lived quite so closely and intimately intertwined with all of humanity. This very long shared history made the house sparrow a genuine expert at reading human behavior. A bird that lives beside us must learn quickly what people tend to do. So over countless generations of living beside us, sparrows became finely tuned to the human world. Your window is simply the latest chapter in that very long shared story. The bird at your glass carries thousands of years of learning how to live with us. That bond shows clearly in where the sparrow chooses to build its nest. Sparrows love to nest in the snug crevices of our walls and rooftops. A gap under a roof tile or a hole in a wall becomes a perfect home. They busily stuff these little spaces with dry grass, soft feathers, and bits of scavenged scraps. Pairs often stay close, returning to the same nesting site year after year. Both parents work together to feed their constantly hungry and ever-demanding chicks. The young sparrows grow up quickly, and they soon join the busy and noisy chattering flock. So your building may quietly host whole generations of the same sparrow family. The sparrow at your window may have been born in your very own walls. That deep attachment to a place makes it know your home intimately well. Despite its small size, the house sparrow is genuinely quick-witted and clever. It is bold and deeply curious and willing to investigate almost anything new, unusual, and promising. This curiosity helps it find new food sources that shyer birds would miss. Sparrows have learned to open packets, bins, and feeders in clever little ways. They quickly figure out exactly where food is kept and precisely how to get to it. Some have even learned to trigger automatic doors to enter buildings for food. This kind of clever problem solving reveals a genuinely flexible and remarkably adaptable little mind. The same sharp wits that find food also help it learn about you. It carefully watches your hands, your movements, and the various things that you regularly carry around. It notices which windows open, which doors are used, and where food appears. It slowly learns the whole layout of your home as a detailed map of risks and rewards. Your kitchen window, your balcony rail, and your seed feeder all become clearly known little landmarks. So the curious little bird builds a working picture of your entire household. And that quiet picture sharpens steadily and surely with every single day that the bird watches. Much like the pigeon, the clever sparrow quickly learns the rhythm and timing of your everyday days. It quickly notices when you tend to appear at your window each morning. It learns roughly when you eat, when you open the window, and when food is most likely to appear. If you tend to scatter seed at breakfast, the sparrow will often be waiting nearby, well beforehand. It times its little visits quite precisely to match up with your most predictable daily habits. Over a few short weeks, it maps out the reliable pattern of your life. This timing saves energy and ensures the bird is present at the right moment. A sparrow that has learned your schedule rarely wastes any effort turning up at the wrong hour. You may notice it waiting, perched and chirping, just before your usual time. That patient little wait is a learned and carefully timed expectation of you. The little bird has, in its own small way, memorized a real piece of your daily timetable. So your routine has quietly become woven into the sparrow's own daily plan. You set the rhythm, and the clever little bird simply learns to follow it. In that quiet way, you have become a fixed landmark in its day. The sparrow is also constantly judging whether you are safe or a threat. Being so small, a sparrow must be even more careful than a larger bird. A single careless mistake made around a real predator could very easily cost the little bird its life. So it reads your movements closely, deciding when to stay and when to flee. If you move calmly and slowly, it learns that you mean no harm. If you lunge or startle it, that wary memory can linger for a long time. Sparrows also rely very heavily on their loud, constant, and remarkably varied chattering calls. That familiar constant chirping is not just random noise, but a genuine and meaningful social language. They use different calls to signal food, to court mates, and to warn of danger. One sharp alarm call can scatter the entire chattering flock in a single startled instant. So when one sparrow spots you as a threat, the others quickly learn too. This shared vocal communication lets the whole group of sparrows learn about you remarkably fast. Your growing reputation can spread right through the local sparrows far faster than you might imagine. A calm, gentle, and reliable human soon becomes known as a safe and trusted presence. A sudden, careless, or threatening one becomes a shared warning quietly passed among all the birds. So you are quietly learned not by just one sparrow alone, but by an entire watchful group. But here, as always, we really should pause and stay scrupulously and carefully honest. The phrase "figured you out" sounds far more deliberate than it truly is. The sparrow is not analyzing you the way a thoughtful person ever would. It is certainly not pondering your character, your shifting moods, or any of your private inner life. It is simply learning patterns as evolution shaped it to survive beside us. This is not affection at all, it is not friendship, and it is certainly not any kind of gratitude. It is the quiet, practical intelligence of a small animal living among humans. We should simply admire this very real ability without ever inventing feelings that it most likely lacks. Sparrows clearly learn individual situations and adjust their behavior accordingly, and that fact alone genuinely impresses. But we cannot read its mind any more than it can truly read ours. The honest reality of a clever little survivor is impressive entirely on its own. No borrowed human emotion needs to be added at all to make that simple story remarkable. There is also a quieter and sadder side to the sparrow's familiar story. In many cities, the house sparrow has been quietly vanishing in recent decades. Once they filled almost every street in noisy, bustling, and endlessly cheerful little crowds. But their numbers have fallen quite sharply across much of Europe and in many places beyond. Researchers point to several causes, from lost nest sites to vanishing insect food. Modern buildings offer fewer crevices where a sparrow can safely build a nest, and tidy paved spaces leave fewer insects to feed their hungry growing chicks. So the bird at your window is more precious than you might have realized. Each familiar chirp is part of a sound that some cities are losing. Noticing and welcoming them in small ways may genuinely help them hold on. So the next time a sparrow lands, look at it with fresh new eyes. Notice whether the same little bird returns to your window again and again. See whether it tends to arrive at fairly similar times, matching the steady rhythm of your days. Watch how it studies you through the glass with its quick darting glances. Look closely for markings, since even sparrows differ once you truly observe them. Males and females differ too. The male's bolder, with a black bib and gray cap. Watch how it reacts to you compared to how it treats other people. Try simply moving slowly and calmly, and then see whether the little bird grows bolder over time. Listen closely to its chirps, and notice how they seem to change with different little situations. Never chase or grab it, as a wild sparrow needs its freedom and trust. Over several patient days, you may begin to sense a quiet kind of familiarity growing between you. You are watching a tiny ancient survivor that has truly figured out your world. Not just a dull little pest at all, but a sharp, adaptable, and ancient urban companion. A bird that chose thousands of years ago to live its life beside us. So the small brown bird at your window was never quite as simple as it seemed. It is a clever observer, an ancient neighbor, and a tireless little survivor. It has learned your window, your timing, your habits, and your daily patterns. It has carefully woven your home into its own small and very carefully studied little world. That is not love, it is not friendship, and it is not any kind of gift. It is something quieter, a small wild life, overlapping closely with your own. Through sheer curiosity, instinct, and patient watching, it has, in its own way, genuinely figured you out. And once you truly understand all that, an ordinary little visitor suddenly becomes quietly fascinating. So I will leave you with one simple thing to watch for at your window. Choose one sparrow, learn its markings, and quietly observe it for a week. Notice whether it learns your timing and grows bolder with each passing visit. Tell me where it happened and how that little bird behaved around you. And tell me whether you felt that the sparrow had quietly figured you out. Because that tiny brown neighbor has been studying your world far longer than you knew.